Hello, everybody. Tracy, Mrs. JDog Flanagan with you here today. I'm the co-founder and senior vice president at JDog Brands. Welcome back to another exciting episode of Tactical Treasures podcast, sponsored by the JDog Foundation. Our podcast gives veterans, male spouses, active military members, military family members, and patriotic military supporters a voice in the veteran space to speak about their service, how they're affecting their communities post-service, and they share with me a tactical treasure that has shaped their journey in their military career, business, or life. Today, I have the pleasure of speaking with Andy Nelson, who is a veteran of the U.S. Army's 82nd Airborne Division and especially enjoys working with businesses operated by those affiliated with the military community. Andy is also the founder and managing attorney at Salient Counsel PC, where he represents clients in business, commercial, and intellectual property matters. His practice emphasizes the development of effective strategies for trademark and copyright protection, enforcement, licensing, and dispute resolution. Over his career, Andy has helped businesses in a wide variety of industries, including technology, food and beverage, apparel, footwear, accessories, manufacturing, and services. He is also a member of the Board of Trustees of the Veterans Legal Institute. Andy is admitted to practice in California state and federal courts. He is also admitted to practice before the United States Court of Appeals for the Ninth Circuit and the United States Supreme Court. Andy received his law degree from the University of the Pacific McGeorge School of Law and his undergraduate degree from the University of Washington. Hi, Andy. Welcome to the podcast. Thanks for joining me today. I look forward to our discussion, and thank you so much for your service to our country, sir.
Hi, Tracy. Thank you. I'm very, very thrilled to be here.
Okay, awesome. This is great. So, a lot to talk about, but I would love to start with your military career. So, what inspired you to join the Army?
Well, I think I was like a lot of other younger kids, back in the 80s, you played a lot of army out in the woods and that sort of thing and watched John Wayne films with your dad and that sort of thing. And, loved 4th of July, loved America, had a patriotic bent. So certainly I'd always thought about joining the military, and I probably rotated through what I liked from month to month as a kid, that sort of thing. But the most, acute reason why I joined, at the age of 17, was I was in high school and the Army came a calling. They
Yeah.
opened up. I remember it like it was yesterday, and I'm sure after the hellos were exchanged, I think the very next question was, "What are you going to do for college? How are you going to pay for college?" Something like that.
Right. Yeah.
And of course, I just shrugged my shoulders. Asked mom, "Hey, mom, what are we going to do?" Hadn't really talked about it. I mean, even talking about going to college, period. And I think my mom probably shrugged her shoulders too. So, once the Army said, "Hey, you can get this month, this much for college, etc." That was the acute trigger that got me to sign on the dotted line when I was a junior in high school.
Wow. Yeah. Oh, wow. That's great. So you went right in right after high school, right?
Yeah, I was in the delayed entry program for a year. Watched the entire
Okay.
Gulf War happen. While I was a
Mm,
senior in high school,
right.
and then be over. And I graduated, let's call it June 8th or something like that of 91. And I was at Fort Benning, Georgia 7 days later or something like that.
Wow. Wow. That's awesome. So I have to ask you,
Mhm.
is there a particular aspect or moment from your service that stood out as impactful in a positive way for you?
Oh boy. Any specific moment? I don't know about that, but certainly the accumulative experience of being. I mean, I was one place. I mean, I was after Fort Benning. I was at Fort Bragg, or Fort Liberty, as they call it now, I guess, for three
Right.
years. And I was in the same unit the entire time. And being, you got people kind of going in, going out constantly, but it seems like there's a core group of people that were probably there the same amount of time I was in, and just really developing bonds like I've never developed before. I mean, you got friends in high school and childhood, et cetera, but you're not seeing them every single day. You're not doing stuff with them
Sure.
every single day. I mean, you're just immersed amongst other folks, just day in, day out. And some of these people I talk to this day. So really that sort of, just like I said, immersion and dealing with, all of a sudden being in an adult situation, I guess,
Yeah. All right.
where you're kind of fending for yourself and mom's not doing your laundry anymore and mom's not making dinner anymore and that sort of thing. I felt like I kind of, as much as I feel like a kid now and feel immature in many ways, I feel like I grew up quite a bit in those 3 years that I was at Fort Bragg.
Sure. Sure. And yeah, I'll tell you, those bonds run really deep, I imagine. Who's on your right and who's on your left, right? You're going
Yeah.
to lay down your life for each other, right? I
Well, at
mean,
least risk it
yeah.
anyway. I'll risk it.
Yeah, right. Or risk it. Yeah. True, true. Okay, so now you are a lawyer. You're the
Hmm.
managing attorney at Salient Counsel PC.
Yeah.
Plus, you sit on the board of trustees.
I,
So,
I want to do one quick correction. I'm no longer on the board of trustees. I was there for 5 years. I still help
okay,
them plan a lot of things, but I
okay,
made way for some other people. You can get a little stale on any board for any one time, and you always
sure.
do want to cycle through some new people here and there. Yeah.
Right, right. But I want to talk about
Yeah.
the pathway. How
Sure.
did the pathway from Army to law, how did that come about?
Right.
So
It was not a plan.
college, right?
Yeah.
Or law
It was.
school?
It was not a plan. So, I mentioned the college pull from the Army early on. Neither of my parents went to college. So, consequently, neither of them really talked to me about the need for it all that much. It was more of kind of the
Right.
80s sort of, you must go to college and don't do drugs. I mean, those are the kind of the 80s themes
Okay.
that kind of
Yeah.
circulated. So I knew I wanted to go to college, but didn't know what I wanted to do. The Army really gave me the freedom to really pursue interests, or learn what really drew me, and I kind of realized when I got done with the Army and I went to the University of Washington back home, that the things that interested me, the things I read about all the time, were history books. And I enjoyed not politics, but I did enjoy learning about different governments, maybe in a historical context. Maybe that's kind of where that
Hmm.
came from. So I ended up, pursuing heavily a coursework in undergrad that involved government, international government, history, heavy coursework that way, and even got a teaching credential of all things in history. But I didn't know what I was going to do with that. I just loved learning. I had a thirst for
Right.
knowledge, and
Hmm.
that's what I would tell anybody. Like, just if you're going to do well in the things that you really enjoy, and college gives you that opportunity. Getting out of other places like high school where you're required to do things, I mean, it gives you the opportunity to pursue those interests. So here I was learning about what I really enjoyed, but I wasn't looking to the next step. What do I do with this? And I think there came a point in time, maybe in my junior year in high school, or sorry, in college, where I'm sure I asked the questions, what do I do with a double major in political science and history? And like, well,
Right.
you can teach maybe at the high school level,
Right.
maybe you can pursue, maybe
Sure.
you'll be maybe you'll teach at the college level. Maybe you can work at a museum, I mean, that this, maybe you can work in politics somehow, or there
Oh,
just wasn't
yeah.
a whole lot. And somewhere along the way, I don't know how, but somewhere along the way, it came to me. I didn't develop this, but it must have bled off on me that, oh, a next, if you like learning, a logical path, to is higher education, and grad school or law school. Law school is a natural, second step, I guess, after a bachelor's of arts degree like that. So, I didn't have any lawyers in the family, nothing like that. And I have never even stepped foot in a law firm. And somehow I said, well, okay, well, I love learning, so why don't I apply to law school? I mean, I probably
Oh,
should have
gosh.
planned this out a
Okay.
little bit better. But I think I've said this before to a lot of people. It's like, instead of me being pushed a direction, it was more of like a pull. Like I got pulled by interest, not pushed by anybody in a certain direction.
Right. Right.
And next thing you know, but I applied to like 13 law schools because I didn't even know where I was going to go. And so here I am, finally deciding between two, one on the West Coast. I grew up in Seattle, but one in California, and then one way out in Boston. I visited both, and I don't know if I flipped a coin or what, but I think ultimately I thought, I'm kind of a West Coast guy. I want to be away from home, but this isn't too far away from home. So I'll just go down to California, go down to Sacramento. I still had that interest in political science, not politics, but I thought, okay, well, maybe there's or a law school or legal or attorney way to be involved in government. And Sacramento, that's the biggest government there is other than outside of DC. So why not? And so I ended up, going to University of the Pacific in Sacramento, and 3 years there. Loved law school. I did better in law school than I did in undergrad.
Oh,
So I must
wow.
have really liked it.
Yeah.
but sure enough, I got done with that and kind of shed the interest in government and politics and went a completely different direction.
Wow. Amazing. So you're in law, right? Now you do intellectual property law.
Yeah.
How did you make that segue there, or was that just kind of a natural progression?
It was convergence of opportunities, I guess, time and opportunity.
Hmm.
I did take, an elective course, if you will, in my second year of law school, which was, I think, understanding unfair competition and something like that, which covered things like trademarks, patents, copyrights, false advertising. I found quite a bit of interest in that. I just, it spoke to me. It's like, well, this is like Kellogg's and cartoons and things from my childhood,
Right.
and brand, toy brands and things like that. Stuff I could relate to, not analyzing insurance policies or constitutional principles or things like that, which are interesting in theory, but in practice didn't interest me. And I was lucky enough. I did well in law school, like I mentioned, my first year. And when you do that, you're largely guaranteed in your second year you'll get interviews um, with big law firms or just law firms in general to then
Right.
go have kind of what we call a summer associate position, like an internship between
Hmm.
your second and your last year. And I interviewed for a place out in the Silicon Valley and got an offer to go there for the summer. And I think later in the spring before I went there, I think they just sent probably that time it was probably a fax, might have been an email saying, hey, you're about to start your summer associate position with 13 other people. What interests you? And I said, well, this intellectual property stuff interests me. And maybe I put something else as well. I don't even know if they even practice that.
Mm.
And they wrote back and
Right.
said, well, great. We have an intellectual property team. We'll put you on that team for the summer. And I said, great, thank you. And so I was there for 2.5 months, had some great work to do, and I was offered a position to come back full time the following year after my third year, and I did. So
Oh,
that's
wow.
how I ended up starting in intellectual property. I have done many things since then that are to the left and the right of that, and way to the left and the right of that, as in different subject matters. But I've always kept the intellectual property practice, and I've always tried to emphasize it because I do enjoy it.
Right. Right. Oh, that's really
But
great.
no science
So,
background, no technical background. I'm not a
right.
graphic artist. I mean, I have a poli sci and history background, and this is what I'm doing.
Right, right. Well, it makes sense when you think about it. You were on the board of trustees for the Veterans Legal Institute
Yeah,
charity. Do you still do any work with them at all?
I do. Yeah, I'm very
Okay.
good friends with their executive director, Antoinette Nadur. She's also a veteran herself, and what I do is I actually do some casework for them. So it's unusual with what I do. I mean, their purpose is to provide free legal services to military families who are,
Okay.
low income, no income, at risk, that sort of thing. It tends to be things like discharge upgrades, landlord tenant issues, immigration issues, other sorts of things like that. So not a lot of intellectual property issues that come up, but
Yeah.
I have taken a few matters for them pro bono. And then they do have, like any nonprofit, you're all about fundraising, so you can deliver your service. And
Sure.
so they, raise money throughout the year, but they do have one big event every year, which this year's coming up in just a few weeks. And so I still help plan that event. I usually serve on one of their committees like sponsorship committee to get sponsorships or the silent auction committee to get those sorts of things. So, you know, just one little, piece in a big machine, we all pull an oar and do something for it. So, I mean, I really believe in their mission, of course. It's near and dear to my heart since it focuses on military families in Orange County specifically. I wish we could replicate it all across the country.
Yeah. Yeah. Sure.
Hello, viewers and listeners.
The Tactical Treasures podcast is honored to be a part of the Reese Across America radio family. We are proud to share that our JDog Foundation is a Reese Across America sponsorship group. For each $17 Veterans Reese you sponsor, $5 goes directly back to the JDog Foundation, whose mission is to prevent veteran suicide and heal veterans' mental health and PTSD. You can donate right now at reaseacrossamerica.org/JDog. Thank you so much for supporting the JDog Foundation through Reese Across America Radio. Now back to the
What
podcast.
does it
Mean to you, in working with them to serve fellow veterans, right? That are kind of in a and when you have a legal
No.
issue, oh, that's just I think that's the most vulnerable predicament to be in, you know.
It is. Yeah, it is. And because it's foreign, it's completely foreign to
Right.
most people. And I will say, even though nobody pushed me to be a lawyer, I did have even an incident way back when I was younger, maybe in my 20s. Maybe I was renting an apartment from somebody, and we had a little bit of a dispute. It didn't end up completing the deal, but I just felt kind of ignorant. Ignorant.
Right. Right.
And yeah, it can be very foreign. You can feel very vulnerable, powerless, and legal services aren't cheap,
Right. Yeah.
anywhere. And even though it can vary, they're never cheap anywhere. So it
Yeah.
feels great to be able to give help to those who really need it, cannot afford it, but have, say, righteous positions, or even if they don't have the best spot in the world, to be railroaded or run over, that's just an awful spot to be in, and nobody deserves that.
Sure.
So,
Yeah.
so it really feels wonderful to be able to help. Can't help everybody, but if we can help a certain segment, and there are others out there that help others, there are a lot of public legal services available all across the country. Almost every county in the country, maybe even every county in the country, has some sort of public legal services available to those in need. We just happen to serve a very specific segment that's near and dear to my heart, because I
Right.
have, of course, a very shared experience with all these people.
Sure, of course. So at Salient Council
Yeah.
PC, you focus completely on IP law, correct?
IP law and related business matters. So,
Okay.
just general business needs, from selecting business entities to the governance of entities, maintenance, contract drafting and review, the things that all businesses run into.
Right. So if I was a business owner, which I am,
Hmm.
I'm co-owner of JDog, we're a franchise
Yeah.
system, and so obviously we understand branding, we understand trademark, we understand copyright, that sort of thing.
Hmm.
And the minute we started, we were like, okay, we need an attorney. So obviously, you encourage business owners, as they navigate that space, come up with whatever their logo is going to be, that sort of thing, that they kind of get in touch with you, right? Is that
Yeah.
sort of what you do, kind of walk them through from a legal standpoint, making sure that everything's secure?
100%. Yeah. I think a lot of people, and I'm on the other side of it, so maybe I'm wrong, but I still get the impression, from because I talk to people every day,
Mm.
that most people have heard the term intellectual property, but they might immediately think, oh, that's Silicon Valley and that's semiconductors and chips and that sort of thing. That's not for me. Okay, well, that's a piece of it. That's a little sliver of it. But
Right.
intellectual property, you know what personal property is, and you know what real property is. That third column is intellectual property. And for a lot of businesses, it could eventually, if not right now, be your most valuable asset.
Hmm.
But it's not as intuitive in terms of knowing what you have or how you actually own it. How is it actually property? I mean, I know if I have this pen in my hand, I know it's mine. I mean, whether I bought it or what have you, I mean, by virtue of me purchasing it, it's mine. It means I get to exclude other people from, unless I let them use it, I get to exclude. I get it. Or if I buy real property, I have title to it, or if I have a leasehold, I have a lease. And so I know I own it, or I have rights to it. I know how to exclude other people from it. I lock the door or what have you. But when it comes to this amorphous, intangible thing, what do I really own? What is it? And then how do I keep other people from using it? It's not intuitive.
Yeah.
But like I said, it could be your most valuable asset now or long term, way more valuable than the other items. And if you don't have at least some sense of what these things are, just not turning people into other people into lawyers, but just have a basic education on what some of these things are, you may be exposing yourself to a lot of issues by stomping on someone else's toes very inadvertently. Not everything is about intent and malicious intent. Sometimes it's just very innocuous, innocent, but it's almost like running a red light at times. If you do it,
Hmm.
even if you didn't mean to, you may have legal exposure and you may owe someone else's damages, because the law doesn't really focus so much on you and your intent and whether you did a bad act. It's more geared toward protecting the rights of the rights holder. So, a lot of people say,
Right.
"Oh shucks, I didn't mean to download that photo. I'm put on my website. Can we call it a day? I took it off." And if most people get an email back that says, "We appreciate you doing that, but you still need to compensate me for using my photo or whatever without permission." And a lot of people don't get that. They say, "Well, what do you mean? I took
Right.
it down as soon as you told me." Yes,
Yeah,
you.
we do. Yeah, we have, we've been in that situation. There have been
It
people
happens
that have,
to
you know,
everybody. It seems like
I
at
know.
some point in time. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Our dog's pretty cool looking.
yeah,
So
yeah, yeah.
people
I,
like to try to download it and they've used it, and we have to respectfully request that they don't use it. And if they comply,
mhm,
no harm, no foul. Okay.
sure.
Just stop.
And
So,
that'll often be the case. Some people take different, I guess, approach IP protection with different levels of vigor, I suppose.
right. Sure. Yeah.
Some are very, hawkish about it, and some are, hey, you probably didn't know this. Please don't do it again. And the person, oh, sorry, and that's the end of it. It's not everything's about, well, now you owe me something. But I like being able
Sure.
to educate business owners or emerging business owners on some of these basics, which are kind of just prophylactic measures, as in, let's not have you step in a pothole that you don't need to step into,
Right.
you know, or your people that you work with, as in, you need to know the stuff, and then you need to make sure that you educate your own folks that work for you, because they can cause you a lot of liability by just being themselves, on social media or whatever. You don't want that. So it's littered with mines, and you want to be careful.
Right. Yeah, definitely. Um, that's great. Great advice. Great information. We come to the time where, Andy, I have to ask you, what is
Mm,
your tactical treasure? What special thing or motto or value has helped you
yeah,
in your journey in life or in the military?
yeah.
I'd love to hear.
Mine is going to be. It's going to be a simple one, but I go back to it and I go, you know what? This really works. I am a guy, who's 51 years old now, and I've had a few things about. I've been married a few times. I've been divorced a few times. So maybe I've had issues with some relationships, personal relationships. I'm one of those guys who's gotten, therapy in the past, and I really have valued it a ton. And one of the things that I was told a long time ago, when I was, down and out or thinking about stuff, my therapist said, you know what, Andy, what I want you to do is when this, when you're ruminating about something, or about either about the past, or you're looking and you're worrying about the future. Ruminate about the past, but really worry about the future. Just tell yourself out loud, say it over and over again, say, I'll be okay. And I said, really? That's it? Just say it, I'll be okay. And you know what? I did that. I followed the instructions. And you know what? It works. It works. I even used it with my daughter. I said, Meg, I just say I'll be okay. Because if you look back, how many times has everybody catastrophized about something? The sky is falling, this and that.
Right.
You know what? At the end of the day, it doesn't come to pass. The sky does not fall. It looks awful, and things can be pretty, trying at times. But I'll tell you what, if you just say that, you know what, I'll be okay. It it helps. It
Right.
really helps, and it has helped me over the years. So I recommend somebody try it.
I love it. That's a great tactical treasure and great advice too. I mean, I think, you're right. I tend to get anxiety ridden over certain things too. But, if I just try to keep a positive outlook and say, you know what,
Yeah.
this too, my mom always used to tell me, this too will pass.
Yes, that's
So,
right.
yeah.
Right. Yes,
So,
exactly. This too shall pass.
right.
So, if I had to, Trace, I'm going to say this. There's one other thing I will impart, though. I will say this. A lot of us out there, especially, I think it's especially a guy thing, not necessarily, but a lot
Okay.
of us are afraid to ask for help because we think we're going
Hmm.
to impose on others times, that sort of thing. But you know what? People love to help. They love to help. They love to, if nothing else, their ego wants them to help and feel important. So don't ever be afraid to ask for help, even when you're young. Don't feel like you kind of look stupid, this and that, because everyone has been there. And I've, I wish I would have learned that earlier. That I could ask for help. That I should welcome mentorship. I always thought, well, no, I need to learn things on my own. I need to be a self starter. I need to, fine. There's a good balance though, but just don't be afraid to ask for help. Ask for help, not imposing on other folks. If they are, they'll tell you. That's fine. You move on to somebody else, but ask for help and people will help.
Right. And I agree with you. I unfortunately I think it is kind of a male thing.
I think
And
so.
I think you're strong. You're supposed to be, in control of everything and all, and as I don't know, the stronger sex or whatever, I don't, whatever, or pride or whatever, all comes into play there. But I think,
Yeah.
you know, males probably tend to not ask for help, but um,
It's probably a biological imperative, but if
it
I
is.
if I say this, then
Sure.
I may be showing a sign of weakness, or, whatever. I
Weakness,
don't want to do
right?
that.
Yeah,
I don't know if it's a conscious thing or what have you, but either way, it's you know,
yeah.
ask for help.
But
People love to help, and you'll be better off for it.
yeah, yeah. So that's a great piece of advice. So would that be your advice for fellow veterans struggling with life after service, or do you have another nugget or
Absolutely.
two
Oh, absolutely.
that
Just
you might
reach out.
share?
Yeah. Even it doesn't necessarily have to be the people that you knew before, people from your unit or what have you. There are plenty of people out there. I'm in a WhatsApp group that I got invited to a while back. And I've been in veterans groups before on Facebook and this and that. I have never seen so much activity in a group as I have in this one. I almost have to turn off the notifications because it's
Oh
so.
wow,
The thing is, genuinely, everyone in there needs something,
right.
and it is supportive. It is supportive. So it's out there. It's out there, and it could be something. It could be deep, deep needs, but it could be simple needs as well. Just the simplest things. I don't. If it's a deep need, don't be afraid to ask. If it's a simple one, as in, I don't know how to, I don't know how to, to get my fishing line right or whatever, or whatever it is. There's somebody out there that knows and happy to help, and it's not going to look down on you for asking.
Right, right. Yeah. There's a lot of resources out there. I think you really need to take advantage of it
Yeah.
and realize that there's also a lot of veterans who have been in your shoes too.
Yeah,
That,
well, my dad told me a story when he was in the Air Force, and I think he did laundry for the first time. He went to the laundromat, and he told me he just left his clothes there. Why? Because he threw all the soap and everything and all of his clothes in the dryer.
oh,
So he's like, whatever, it's garbage, and he left.
oh no. Oh dear. Oh, that's a funny
Just
story. I
to
love
ask
it.
somebody. Ask somebody. How do you do this?
Yeah, really. A simple question. It
Yeah,
goes along with, asking for directions
yeah,
when
yeah.
you're on the road.
Well, look,
So
that's another thing for males, I suppose. But modern smartphones have come to our rescue. So,
I know, thank
hey,
God. Thank God for GPS and
yeah,
Waze and everything else.
I was
Yeah.
there during the transition period, in like around 2000, where you had Yahoo Maps and things like that. But
Yeah.
you put an address, and sometimes it would put you in the middle of the ocean. I'm like, well,
Yeah,
that's not.
right. Yeah, yeah, I know. I was there too. Um, so before you can go, can
Mhm.
you tell us where people can find and connect with you? Obviously, if they need your
Yeah.
services. And where could they find out more information on Veterans Legal Institute? And is
Okay.
there a way that they can, if they're veteran or military families, right? If they are in need of legal services?
Sure. I'll start with them. Yes. Their VLI, or Veterans Legal Institute, their website is vetslegal.com.
Okay.
VETSLEGAL.com. Vets Legal. And it's
Okay.
one stop shop there. Everything about the organization. And if somebody may be able to use their services or apply for their services, it's right there at that website. They're on social as well, but I would go to vetslegal.com. That's a direct line to where they are. And for me,
Great.
it's easy to get a hold of me through at my website, because my bio page has my email address, and I think it even has my phone number right on there, which is my mobile number. It's direct to me, and that's salientcounsel.com. SALIENT counsel, COUNSEL, not CIL. We're not a round council. Salientcounsel.com. I'm on social as well. So real quick, if my favorite is probably my Instagram account. That's where I post a lot of stuff about what I do. I'm attorney Andy Nelson. Real easy on Instagram. Attorney Andy Nelson.
Attorney Andy Nelson. I love it. That's easy. Andy, this has been awesome. Thank you so much for coming on and sharing all that you did. Love your tactical treasure. Simple. Sometimes simple is best. And thank you so much for sharing about what you do with IP law. I think it's great information. Thank you
Thank
so
you. Yeah.
much.
Thank you, Tracy. I really appreciate the time. Appreciate being on here. Really enjoyed it.
Hello, viewers and listeners. Thank you so much for tuning into this episode of Tactical Treasures Podcast. We've just finished up an amazing conversation with Andy Nelson, who is a veteran of the U.S. Army's 82nd Airborne Division. He is also the founder and managing attorney at Salient Counsel PC. He also served on the board of trustees for Veterans Legal Institute, or VLI. Veterans Legal Institute provides pro bono legal assistance to homeless, at-risk, disabled, and low-income current and former service members to eradicate barriers to housing, healthcare, education, and employment, and foster self-sufficiency. VLI brings together military members, veterans, and the concerned public at large through volunteerism, education, outreach, and policy advocacy, and is committed to showing compassion and understanding regarding the unique set of military specific issues associated with traumatic combat deployments. VLI is dedicated to providing high quality legal services and advocacy, and raises the standard in the legal industry by providing legal services at the utmost levels of professionalism and excellence for the benefit of its clients and the overall veteran community. If you would like to learn more, or you are in need of their veteran legal services, please visit vetslegal.com. And if you would like to get in touch with Andy and learn more about IP law as it pertains to your business, please reach out to him at Salient, and that's SALIENT Counsel, and counsel is spelled COUNSEL.com. His bio is there, his email, and I believe his phone number to get in touch with him. You can also check him out on Instagram, Attorney Andy Nelson. Again, thanks for tuning in. Don't forget, you can find Tactical Treasures podcast on all your favorite podcast streaming platforms, as well as Vet TV, American Grit, and our dedicated YouTube channel. We are now airing on Reese Across America Radio on Thursdays at 7 p.m. Eastern and Saturdays at 1 p.m. Eastern. You can also find Reese Across America Radio on the iHeartRadio app, the Odyssey app, and the TuneIn app. Again, thanks for joining us. We'll see you again on another podcast real soon. Bye-bye now.